because I think I said this to a patient the other day. So polyurethane implants are basically more difficult to use than silicone implants, and there is a bit of a learning curve with polyurethane foam implants because polyurethane implants behave slightly differently to silicone implants. Now, to be honest, you have to make sure you place them both correctly, whether you're using polyurethane or silicone implants. The difference between them is that you're absolutely right, polyurethane implants move less because the scar tissue grows into them. So the way you make the pocket slightly differently, I'm not sure if this is really relevant for members of the public, to be honest. Anyway, I'll say it. I'll say it anyway. So when you do a breast augmentation, you have to make a pocket, you have to make a space to put the implant in, whether it be in front or behind the muscle. You make a space, and you make a bigger space for polyurethane than you would with a silicone implant. So with a silicone implant, you talk about a hand in glove type fit. You make a space the size of the implant to put the implant in. You don't want to make it too big because the implant might move about. You don't want to make it too small because the implant might wrinkle up and crease. So with a polyurethane implant, you make a much bigger pocket. You make a wider pocket because that polyurethane is like there's a lot of sort of there's a lot of resistance. I don't know if you can imagine it when you're going in with a polyurethane implant. It's like they're furry implants, so you don't want it rucking up. I haven't got one, but you could ruck up if you made a tight space. So you have to make a very wide space, and you have to make sure it's sitting flat. And the reason you can make a wide space, a space bigger than the size of the implant, is that, as you say, you can place it and it stays where you place it. Whereas a silicone implant, if you made the space too wide or too high or too low, the implant would fall into that space. You have to be careful with both is the answer, and you have to make sure you place both correctly. And there is as I say, there's a learning curve with polyurethane foam implants if you haven't used them much. But the point I think I was making with this is that it's really important to choose your surgeon rather than the implant. I think that's more the point I was making, because a lot of people get a lot of angst over what implant they should have, which I don't think is necessarily wrong, because I think it's a very important decision what implant you should have. But they seem to spend a disproportionate amount of time worrying about the implant rather than the surgeon. They'll be like, oh yeah, I don't know what my surgeon's name was, or I don't know who he was, didn't really see him, saw him for 5 minutes or her for 5 minutes, and then I saw one surgeon and had surgery and there was another surgeon and all this sort of thing. And I'm like, it's really more important to choose your surgeon than your implant, I would say. Within certain remits, it doesn't matter hugely what, sorry, playing with my crystals there, what implant you have. Based on the base width is really critical for me, and that's the first thing that I go on. And so there's usually a couple of implants you can choose from, which people do have a lot of worry about which one they should choose. And I always say to them, look, between one or two implants, particularly within the same profile, the difference isn't going to be significant. But if you get them placed wrong, too high, too wide, one up, one down, whatever, then you're not going to be happy. So I think that is the point really about the placement. But how do you place the implants correctly is how the surgery and how you do it. And the main thing that I normally want to talk to other people who are sort of thinking about using polyurethane implants is to put them low. You have to put them much lower than you would, for instance, a silicone implant, because a silicone implant will drop into the pocket. Silicone implants start high and drop. They do sort of drop into the pocket. Polyurethane implants don't drop. They sort of stay pretty much where you put them. So you've got to put them in low, because they'll stay there. And sometimes it can look quite low when you do the surgery, but particularly if you're used to silicone, but it's just something that you've got to get used to if you're a surgeon using them. Having said that, they do start swollen and then settle, but they don't particularly move. They don't particularly drop in the same way that silicone implants do.